In this exercise, we are going to discover 3D in Illustrator. So we are going to start with this image as a reference, and we will build these 3D shapes. Create new. Back to the old settings, this width and this height. I click on create. File, place, exercise 10, click, check template and click on place. I'm going to start with the ellipse tool. I press shift and I build circle like this. I'm going to swap fill and stroke and set the stroke to none. Now rectangle tool, I'm going to press shift and build a square like this. I go to polygon tool, I press shift and build a triangle like this. Star tool, I'm going to press shift and alt at the same time and build a star like this. I let go. I go to selection tool. I'm going to put the star where it needs to be. I'm going to press alt and I'm going to duplicate, put the other one right here. Now I'm going to build half a circle. I'm going to take this circle and duplicate it, put it right here. I'm going to take this square and duplicate it. I'm going to choose white for the fill. And I'm going to change the shape. I'm going to stop here, exactly in the center of the circle. I'm going to make it a little bit longer like this. Now I'm going to select both shapes like this, shape builder tool, press alt, and I'm going to delete these parts. Now we have half the circle left. Now I can hide the template. I no longer need it. I'm going to color these shapes. I'm going to start here. I'm going to choose red. This, I'm going to choose green. This, blue. These two stars, pink. And this shape, a dark blue like this. Now I'm going to select this first shape and I'm going to turn it to a 3D object. So how am I going to do that? First step, I have to click on window and click on 3D materials, 3D and materials. Here we have 3D type. I'm going to click on extrude and just like that we have a 3D shape. I can increase the depth and you see how the shape is changing. I'm going to set this to 200 like this, and I'm not going to change anything else. Here we have rotation. I can rotate the object if I want to, like this, on this axis, and I can rotate it on this axis. Control Z 3 times to go back. I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to move to the next shape. I click on the square. I'm going to do the same thing, extrude, click. We have a 3D shape now. I'm going to set the depth to 200. This time I'm going to add bevel. I click here. You see how the shape changed. I can change the width and you see what's happening to the shape. I can change the height and you can see what's happening. But I'm not gonna do that. Control Z, Control Z. I'm just gonna change the repeat. Now it's set to 1. I can increase it to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 up to 10. We get this. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna leave it at 3 and we get this shape. If I want to, I can make the bevel inside. I check this and we get a shape like this. I click again, I uncheck this. I can check bevel both sides, and now when I rotate, you notice that we have the same effect on both sides. If I uncheck, you see now it's just on one side. And I come here, rotation, I click, and I'm gonna choose the preset front. Front, we have 0 degrees, 0 degrees, 0 degrees for the 3 axis, and I'm gonna leave it like this. Now I'm gonna move to the triangle, select the triangle, extrude, depth, I'm gonna choose 200. I'm gonna add bevel like this, and when I click here, I have many options to choose from. This time I'm gonna choose this option, classic outline, and we get a shape like this. I can modify the values if I want to, but I'm not gonna do that. Control Z, go back, and that's it. I'm not gonna change anything else. I'm gonna leave the rotation like this, and I'm gonna select this star now, extrude. I'm gonna add bevel. This time I'm gonna choose round, and we get a shape like this. I click again, and I'm gonna choose front. We get the star like this. One more thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add lighting and a shadow. So we already have a lighting, I'm just gonna add the shadow. I'm gonna click right here. Here we have different options. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna add shadow. I click here, and now we have shadow like this. I'll make sure the distance from object is 0%. If I increase it, now the shadow is far away. That's not what I want. I'm gonna leave it like this. And if I ever decide to change the height of the light source, we notice how the shadow also changes. But I'm not gonna do that. Control Z. I go back. If I ever decide to choose other presets like diffuse, top left or right, you see how each time it changes. I'm gonna go back to standard, and I'm gonna leave it like this. And by the way, if I ever decide to modify the shape, for example this star, if I click on direct selection tool and I decide to move this point, for example, when I modify the shape, the 3D objects also changes like this. Control Z, I'm gonna go back. If I ever decide to, for example, round the corners like this, I'm gonna select everything, all the points, and round everything. You notice that the 3D object also changes. Okay, Control Z to go back. I'm gonna move to the next shape, this star right here. I click on object, but this time I'm gonna click on inflate. I click on inflate, and we get this result, as you see. If I ever decide to rotate it, you can see the effect. It's like an inflated balloon. And if I check inflate both sides, notice what's happening. Now we get a shape like this. I'm gonna go back to front and check inflate both sides. And now I'm gonna add material. I click on materials. Here we have different options to choose from, different materials that we can apply to our 3D object. I'm gonna apply this one, this material, gold. I click, and just like that we get a golden star. Now the last one, I select this shape. Now we have half a circle, and I'm gonna click right here, revolve, and look what happens. Now we have a sphere. we have a shape that looks like a ball like this. I'm gonna select it, click on material, and I'm gonna apply this material, marble paint. And we get this result. Once you're done with your 3D objects and you're sure you're not gonna make any more modifications, you should click on the object, click right here, render settings, render with ray tracing. You choose the quality. If you are working on a serious project, you should always choose high quality. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not gonna do that because it takes a long time. I'm just gonna click on low quality. Reduce noise is already checked. All I have to do now is click on render. I'll wait for some time. And now the rendering is finished. You can, once this is the rendering of this object is done, you can select the next object and do the same thing. You click render settings, render with ray tracing, you choose the quality and you click on render, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna close this window. And now the exercise is finished. You go do the same and don't forget to save.